Greetings, my name is Trifon Sivenes, and I'll be presenting you our research regarding the acceptance of first-person view drones with the help of head-mounted displays on a sample of in-service teachers. Let me start off by saying that in research literature, a drone is generally defined as an aerial robot that has no pilot on board, that can either fly autonomously on its own or be remotely controlled by a user. However, in research literature, we can also find drones with certain names and abbreviations, including among others RPAS, UAV, and UAS. Drones became popular in recent years, and we have witnessed an increased research interest in a number of fields, including, of course, education. Now, one category of drones that recently emerged is the one of first-person view drones. These are drones that usually come in the form of a drone kit, consisting of the drone itself and its embedded sensors, a controller, as well as head-mounted displays. In the head-mounted displays, feed from the drone's camera is broadcasted in real time. This provides an immersive experience to the user, offering increased sense of presence as well as bird's-eye view. Moreover, we investigated in research literature to see what has been examined so far regarding drones in general in education. And as you can see, quite a few advancements have occurred, including research in every level of education. We also witnessed the recent emergence of a number of systematic reviews, specifically targeting drones and educational usage, and through them we identified a number of shortcomings as well. The first one has to do with the fact that the majority of research focuses in student sample and to a lesser extent in teacher sample. We also notice how one category of drones seems to be mostly used, that is the one of quadcopter or quadrotor, and even though we were able to identify a couple of studies trying to investigate the use of FPV drones in education, research seems to be quite new around them. So as you can see in the slideshow, to the best of our knowledge, we couldn't find a study that focuses on the acceptance of FPV drones from teachers. Therefore, the purpose of our study was to fill this gap by examining the very same. That is the acceptance of FPV drones from 64 in-service primary and secondary education teachers. The rationale behind this was twofold. Firstly, in developing an acceptance model for FPV drones in education, and secondly, in examining the factors that may affect in-service teachers when using drones in STEM-based scenarios and activities. Moving on to our theoretical framework. The first thing that we did was try to identify how technology acceptance is measured, and we found quite a few models as you can see in the slideshow. For instance, TAM, TAM2, TAM3, United Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology version 1, as well as version 2. We also investigated the variables included within these models. And lastly, we investigate to see if any of them has been used or modified for drone usage. And as you can see, even though we were able to find quite a few examining technology acceptance of drones in general, none of them focused in education. However, during our literature review, one study caught our eye that mentioned how public acceptance of drones seems to be divided in three groups, namely sociocultural influences, main perceived risks, and lastly, main expected benefits. And this is our proposed model. Now, as you may see, we included 7 variables, and at the same time, we formed 7 hypotheses. For instance, we believe that attitude has a positive effect on teacher intention to use FPV drones in STEM activities, which is marked as hypothesis 1. Similarly, as you can see in the slideshow, we believe that perceived usefulness has a positive effect on intention and on attitude towards the use of FPV drones. These are hypotheses 2A and 2B. We also believe that facilitating conditions, that is hypothesis 3, has a positive effect on intention to use FPV drones. Similarly, perceived ease of use has positive effects on attitude, which is hypothesis 4. Then, perceived enjoyment, perceived ease of use, as well as perceived affordances have positive effects on perceived usefulness. These are hypotheses 5, 6, and 7. Moving on to our methodology, our sample consisted of 64 in-service primary and secondary education teachers that were enrolled in a master's course in our Department of Pedagogy and Primary Education at the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens. As far as our instrument goes, we used, as you can see, an online questionnaire that was split in two sections. Section A asked for generic anonymized demographic data. Section B asked for questions regarding the 7 variables that we included in our model. As you can see, intention, attitude, perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, facilitating conditions, perceived enjoyment, as well as perceived affordances. As far as our equipment goes, we used DJI Avatar FPV drone, where, as you can see in the picture below, the teacher has to wear a head-mounted display where the content of the drone's camera is being broadcasted in real time. In the first picture, you can also see part of the STEM scenario that we developed in the outdoor premises of our university. Moving on to our procedure, it was split in 3 phases. In phase 1, participants attended an online call via Zoom, where we presented a slideshow around drones, their history, significance, and usage. In phase 2, each teacher came to the outdoor premises of our university in order to take part in the study. Firstly, they had 20 minutes to get familiarized with the drone and its controls. Then, they had to solve a STEM-based scenario that had to do with the transportation of medical equipment after a flood hit the city. Lastly, in phase 3, they had to complete our questionnaire. As far as our data analysis goes, we used SPSS version 26, and we calculated, as you can see, Cronbach's alpha, Pearson correlations, and we did regression analysis as well. Moving on to our results. Overall, as you can see, the teachers had very strong intention around the use of FPV drones, expressing high median and standard deviation. The same applies to attitude, as you can see in the slideshow, where both median and standard deviation is quite high. As far as perceived ease of use goes, it appears that the majority of the teachers perceive the drones very easy to use based on these findings. They also seem to perceive them quite useful for educational purposes. Now, on the matter of facilitating conditions, it appears teachers had somewhat positive perceptions. However, when compared to the results of the previous variables, they are somewhat lower. One of the highest values is the variable of perceived enjoyment, where teachers claimed that they really enjoyed using the FPV drones. Lastly, the teachers seem to perceive the FPV drones affordances with very high scores, as you can see in the slideshow below. Now moving on to the Pearson correlations. As you can see, intention was correlated with attitude, facilitating conditions, and perceived usefulness. Similarly, attitude was significantly correlated with perceived enjoyment, as well as perceived ease of use. Lastly, perceived usefulness was correlated with perceived enjoyment, as well as perceived affordances. Now, as far as the regression analysis goes, 56.3% of teachers intend to use drones in their STEM activities, an action that is explained by the 2 variables, namely attitude and facilitating conditions. One interesting finding is that perceived usefulness had no effect in the explanation. So to sum up, it seems our second hypothesis that stated that perceived usefulness may have positive connection with intention wasn't confirmed. Lastly, this is one of the first studies that attempts to investigate teacher acceptance of FPV drones and attempts to create a model around it. Overall, our findings are positive, and the teachers were quite positive and eager to use the FPV drones. A number of applications emerged, as you can see in the slideshow, including the need of logistical and technological infrastructure support to teachers. In order for research around the use of FPV drones to continue, the educational benefits of immersive experience provided by the FPV drones should be highlighted, as well as the capabilities and affordances that they offer to students. And finally, one limitation has to do with the fact that we used convenient sampling, and lastly, future research could use larger sample or try to incorporate additional variables in order to expand the model further. This concludes our presentation. I would like to thank you for your time.